In this practical class, we are going to concentrate or we are going to isolate plasmid DNA from a given bacterial culture. So all of you know what is a plasmid DNA, right? What is a plasmid DNA? It is a covalently closed small circular DNA, okay? So which contains specific genes which may not be present in the chromosomal DNA. Okay, so if you see a bacteria, if you see the ultrastructure of bacteria, you can see that the first component which is present is nothing but the cell wall, then comes your cell membrane, then comes the cytoplasmic protein, then the nucleic acid. Okay, so in some organism, apart from this genomic DNA or apart from this chromosomal DNA, there will be extra chromosomal entities. That extra chromosomal entities are called what? Plasmid. So as I told you that it will be having specific genes which give specific property for that organism which may not be present in the chromosomal DNA. For example, R plasmid. You might have studied in your theory. R plasmid. What is that R plasmid? It is nothing but resistance plasmid, which gives resistance towards a particular antibiotic to that microorganism. That's why I told it gives a particular characteristic feature for that organism. So those organisms which possess R plasmid, which gives a characteristic feature of what? Resistance to a particular antibiotic. One more example I will tell you, that is nothing but F plasmid. Okay, so this is nothing but the fertility factor. Fertility factor means which provides a particular characteristics of conjugation between two different bacteria, two different microorganisms. Likewise, each plasmid will be having specific characteristic features which provides an additional benefit for the organism. That is what we call plasmid. Okay, so the plasmid plays a very important role in the recombinant DNA technology aspects. All of you might have studied, that is desired genomic sequence will be taken. If you want to transfer this desired genomic sequence into a particular host, you cannot directly put it onto here. So in that case, you require a vector. So one of the most important vector which we are using in molecular biology is nothing but plasmid. Okay, so that is the application of the plasmid. So we have to remove all other cellular molecules and all other biomolecules to extract this plasmid. You have to remove your cell wall, you have to remove the cell membrane, remove the cytoplasmic proteins, remove the genomic DNA. Only the plasmid DNA has to be purified. Then only this can be used for different molecular biology works. Okay, so in this practical session, we are going to isolate the plasmid DNA by removing all other biomolecules. So for this, you have to lyse the cell wall, you have to dissolve all the proteins which we are not required, which is not required, but the plasmid entity which is present in where? In the cytoplasm or this protein. So you have to segregate this plasmid, and one more major component which is present in the organism is the genomic DNA. That also has to be removed. Only the small covalently closed circular plasmid has to be extracted. For that, we will be using three different solutions along with some centrifugation process and precipitation process. Okay, so we have three different solutions. I will tell you in detail what is solution 1, solution 2 and solution 3. These are all the three solutions which we are using to remove all other biomolecules only to purify the plasmid DNA. Clear? So each and every solution will be having a specific chemical component. That chemical component plays a very important role to remove the biomolecules and extract only your plasmid. Once the plasmid is extracted, I told you, not only the solutions, along with that, we should employ some sort of centrifugation process. Okay, some centrifugation process which high RPM has to be used to remove this plasmid, as well as there is one more important aspect in the plasmid extraction is precipitation process. Okay, there is a chemical reactions. The chemical reactions will remove the biomolecules. Centrifugation process will enhance the removal of these biomolecules, and precipitation process will help us to remove the plasmids from all these particular complexes. Now we will see practically how exactly these steps can be carried out. Okay. This is the bacterial culture which we are going to use for the extraction of plasmid. So this bacterial culture which we have to be inoculated in the previous day in LB broth, that is nothing but Luria batani broth. It should be kept in incubator. The only thing is to select the organisms, that is the organism which contains the plasmid. This broth should have some marker. So the marker which we have incorporated here is nothing but with the antibiotic. So those organisms which can resist the antibiotic environment only will grow. You can just have a look of this culture. The culture is turbid. It means that the organism is grown over there after the incubation period. So whichever the organism which are present inside this tube definitely will be having the plasmid. So that particular culture which which we are going to use for the extraction of plasmid. So the first step of the plasmid extraction is you have to take 1.5 ml of the culture. Okay, you can see 1.5 ml of the culture has to be transferred it into a sterile fresh Eppendorf tube. So this is how, in a sterile condition, you have to transfer 1.5 ml of the culture into a sterile Eppendorf tube. This is the first step of the plasmid extraction. So we have taken 1.5 ml of culture. So now this contains the nutrients, which contains distilled water. The entire media is there. We don't want all those things. We require only the microorganisms. So we have to precipitate, or you have to produce a pellet of what? The microorganism. To produce pellet, what we will be doing usually, we will go for centrifugation. But only thing here is, when you are going for centrifugation, you are going to extract the nucleic acid like your plasmid. So it is a very sensitive material. So the temperature factor is a very important factor. There should not be any fluctuation in the temperature. Therefore, what you have to do is, you have to go for centrifugation at lower temperature. Now, we are going to centrifuge it at lower temperature, that is around 4 degrees centigrade at 5000 rpm. So, this is the centrifuge. This centrifuge is called cooling centrifuge. You can see here. So what is the advantage of cooling centrifuge is, it is an advanced form of centrifuge which contains the temperature control as well as the resolution power, that is the RPM is much higher comparing to a normal centrifuge. So as a second step, we are going to centrifuge the bacterial culture for 5 minutes at 5000 rpm at 4 degrees centigrade. This is a very important factor. Okay, so the temperature set here is 4 degrees centigrade. At 5000 rpm we are going to centrifuge it. After 5 minutes of time, the centrifugation process is over. You can just see that the duration is over. That is, you can see the 0 in that provision, and we have set 5000 rpm. Once the time is up, it will be automatically come down to 0. So this time what you have to do, you have to take out the tubes for the observation of the pellet. If the pellet is not available, then you have to go for recentrifugation. You can see in this tube, yeah, the pellet has been produced. So it means that whatever the bacteria which has been there in the media has been deposited in the form of pellet. So now we have two portions here. One is pellet, another one is supernatant. Now we have to discard the supernatant. We don't want supernatant. We require only the pellet because that is the bacteria. So all other components of the media has been removed. Now we have only the bacterial pellet. So from this bacteria we are going to extract the plasmid. We will see how we can do that. So we have taken the bacterial culture, we have centrifuged it. After centrifugation, we have harvested only the pellet. So the pellet is nothing but our bacteria. Now, as we have discussed the bacteria, we have to remove the cell wall, cell membrane, cytoplasmic proteins, genomic DNA, all those things we have to remove. We require only the plasmid DNA. For that, the next step is we have to add 100 mol of solution 1 into the pellet. So when I am talking about solution 1, the solution 1 contains 3 principal components. The first one is 25 millimolar of tris chloride. So the first component is tris chloride. So the molarity is 25 millimolar, and 50 millimolar of glucose and 10 millimolar of EDTA. So these are all the components which is available in solution 1. So if I am talking about the components, the functions of the components of solution 1, so the tris chloride will create a buffering situation or buffering environment for the nucleic acid, nothing but your plasmid. So that it is a very sensitive material. So yeah, always a buffering environment is required to maintain the stability of the plasmid. And the second component is glucose. So this glucose creates an environment, an isotonic environment, which creates the sugar molarity much higher outside the environment of the organism or outside the bacterial cell. And it contains EDTA. EDTA acts as a chelating agent. It is a divalent cation which prevents the DNA's activity. Okay, DNA's activity means the bacterial plasmid, it is nothing but a DNA, right? It is extra chromosomal DNA. So any component or any enzyme should not cleave this plasmid. So to avoid this type of DNA's activity, we are having EDTA. So now we have to add 100 mol of solution 1 into the bacterial pellet. The already harvested bacterial pellet, you are going to add 100 mol of solution 1. So when you add 100 mol of solution 1, tris chloride will give a buffering environment, glucose will give a salt, the sugar concentration will keep up higher outside the environment, outside the bacterial cell. EDTA will prevent any sort of DNase activity. So 100 mol of solution 1 is going to be added into this, and when we were doing centrifugation, you might have observed the temperature has kept for 4 degrees centigrade, means the throughout the experimentation we should keep the temperature low. Now after keeping this, to do the buffering capacity, to do the chelation, all those things, we have to give a specific duration. Before that you have to mix it properly by using vortex mixture. This is the instrument that we are seeing, it is nothing but vortex mixture. So the solution 1 is completely mixed with the bacteria. Now we are going to keep it for incubation for 5 minutes in a very low temperature. That is, for that we have to use ice pack. Okay, I told you what is the importance of maintaining lower temperature. So 5 minutes we are going to incubate it in the ice pack. So after 5 minutes of incubation in the ice pack, then we have to go for the second solution, that is solution 2. So the solution 2 is made up of 2 principal components. One is sodium hydroxide, another one is SDS, that is sodium dodecyl sulfate. So this SDS, it is a detergent. What it will do is, it will cleave the phosphobiolipid layer of the bacteria. It means the cell wall will be broken. So this is the first function of what SDS. The second thing is, it will react with the protein material. Where is the protein material present? It is in the cytoplasm. It will react with the proteinaceous materials and it denatures the protein. One more component which is there in the solution 2 is sodium hydroxide. So this is the technique, this is the major technique which we are employing for the isolation of the plasmid. That is, when you add sodium hydroxide solution, what will happen? The alkalinity of the alkaline condition will go up. Okay, the solution will become completely alkaline. So in this particular alkaline condition, very importantly, the nucleic acid will get denatured. So the nucleic acid means there are 2 nucleic acids which are present here. One is your genomic DNA, another one is the plasmid DNA. Both the DNA will get denatured. Okay, both the genomic DNA as well as the plasmid DNA will get denatured. Okay, so this is what the function of solution 2. So now we are going to add 300 mol of solution 2 into the Eppendorf tube. Okay. 300 to 400 ml of solution 2 is going to be added in the tube. Already the tube contains your bacteria along with solution 1, and now it is solution 2. Again, it has to be mixed properly and it has to be kept in ice pack. I told you the importance of maintaining temperature. So this is the next step of plasmid DNA extraction, adding the solution 2 and keep it for incubation in the ice pack for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes of incubation, we have to take it out, and then after that what we have to do, we have to add the next solution. The next solution is nothing but solution 3. So if I talk about solution 3, the solution 3 contains 2 principal acids. One is potassium acetate and the second one is glacial acetic acid. Okay, why we are using this particular combination is, say already you have added sodium hydroxide, so the sodium hydroxide has given an alkaline environment. Now when you add acid into this, what will happen? It will get neutralized. Okay, so when the neutralization process happens, there is one more important molecular reaction happens over there. The genomic DNA and the plasmid DNA will try to renature. But the genomic DNA will cannot renature, the plasmid DNA will renature faster. Why it is happening like that? Because genomic DNA is a very huge DNA. It is a linear DNA. It is a huge. It is having huge molecular weight, and it is a very big DNA. But if you compare to plasmid, so what will happen? The plasmid will get renatured very easily, but the genomic DNA cannot renature. Okay, so only the plasmid DNA will be intact. One more reaction which is going on here is the potassium acetate, which will precipitate the cellular components. Okay, so this is what happens when you add solution 3 into the tube. So now we are going to take out the tube. all of you can observe that is after solution 2, after adding solution 2, it is taken, you can see that it is a clear solution. Why this clear solution is happening? Because of the lysis. The lysis has happened. Because of the lysis, what happens? The turbid solution has become a clear solution. So the next step is we are going to add solution 3. Okay, so the solution 3 which contains potassium acetate and glacial acetic acid. It is 300 ml of solution 3 is going to be added into this. Okay, so we are using 2 samples, 2 tubes are there. In both the tubes we are going to add 300 ml of solution 3. Right? So once you add it, you properly mix it. After mixing it, this has to be centrifuged. Okay, so when after mixing thoroughly with the solution 3, okay, after neutralization process will happen, and after that what will happen? Precipitation will happen. So to make this process easier and faster, you have to go for centrifugation at 8000 rpm at 4 degrees centigrade for 5 minutes. So after adding solution 3, 5 minutes of incubation is done in ice pack. Now we have to centrifuge it. After adding solution 3, now we are going to keep it for centrifugation for 5 minutes at 8000 rpm at 4 degree centigrade. Now the centrifugation process is over. Now we are going to remove the tube. And it should give a specific pellet. You can make out over there. The pellet is produced. Now you have to remove the supernatant, because in the supernatant only what will be there? Plasmid will be there, because that is the low molecular weight component. All other components would have settled down in the form of precipitate. Just now we have seen. Now you are going to transfer the supernatant into a fresh Eppendorf tube. Okay, it will be around 500 ml. You have to transfer an equal volume of isopropanol. Equal volume of isopropanol has to be added into that. So 500 ml we have taken. So 500 ml of isopropanol is going to be taken into this tube. Okay. So once it is transferred, it has to be covered properly, and after that it should be kept for incubation in the ice for 30 minutes. Okay. In the ice, any alcohol, the purpose of the alcohol is to precipitate your plasmid DNA. So 30 minutes it is going to be incubated. After that we are going for centrifugation process. So after 5 minutes of incubation in the ice pack and after centrifugation, now you have to carefully remove the Eppendorf tube from the cooling centrifuge. Okay, observe for pellet. You can see here the pellet is there. Then we have to process further. Now the plasmid might have precipitated out. Now you are removing the supernatant, and only the precipitate you are going to take, or the pellet you are going to take, and you have to go for further purification. To achieve this, now you have to transfer ethanol, or you have to go for a washing with ethanol. Ethanol is also an alcohol, so that what it will do, it will precipitate out more and more amount of plasmid DNA, or it is used for the purification purpose. Now you are adding ethanol into the Eppendorf tube for further purification and precipitation process.
After washing with ethanol?
After washing with ethanol, okay, the excess of ethanol is getting removed over here. Then you have to keep your tubes open for evaporation process. If any debris of alcohol, if it is still persists there, it will get evaporated. After evaporation process, the entire ethanol components might have been evaporated. Now what you have to do is, you have to add tris EDTA buffer, that is TE buffer, 50 ml of TE buffer into the tube. 50 ml of TE buffer will be added into the tube. So you know the function of buffer, that is it creates a proper environment to stabilize your plasmid DNA. So it has to be mixed thoroughly. Okay. And always care should be taken that it should be kept at lower temperature, like ice packs or freezers or fridge. Then you have to go for agarose gel electrophoresis to find out whether the plasmid DNA is present there or not. The practical purpose, we have isolated genomic DNA also. Now both plasmid DNA and genomic DNA, we will run it in agarose gel electrophoresis. Switch off the power pack and removing the gel for the observation. So this is the dark room wherein which UV transilluminator is kept. The transilluminator has to be in dark place because under UV radiation we have to see the fluorescence or any sort of phosphorescence, then the dark background will give a better result. That's why it is kept in the dark room. And now we are transferring the gel into the transilluminator. Yeah, carefully without breaking, you are going to transfer the gel into the transilluminator. Okay, so there is a cover which has to be properly placed over this because you know that UV radiation which will harm us. Therefore, it should be completely covered, okay, before observing it in the UV radiation. Okay, so now it is properly placed in the illuminator. Okay, now we are going to switch on the UV radiation. Okay, there are two things you can see. This is the first band. Okay, this is the second band. One dark band you can see, one light band you can see. You can just compare the distance traveled by one band to the second band. The first band was nothing but what? A plasmid, and the second band is nothing but the genomic DNA. Right? So as we have discussed, the plasmid DNA is a small covalently closed circular DNA. The density is very low, means molecular weight is very low. But genomic DNA is a huge DNA, so its molecular weight is comparatively much higher. So this high molecular weight genomic DNA runs slower comparing to plasmid DNA. So as we have discussed, in the agarose gel there is ethidium bromide. The ethidium bromide will intercalate with the genomic DNA and plasmid DNA. So under UV radiation you can see that orange color bands. You can just have a look of two bands. One is the first lane is nothing but plasmid and the second lane is genomic DNA. This is how the process of agarose gel electrophoresis is carried out. Thank you.